Good people, what is going on? It's another week. Eagles Elite Podcast. Y'all know what it is. A lot of things to talk about this week. It's gonna be a fun week. Doing a couple of game reviews. Week 5 or game 5, let me say, against Cleveland after the bye, and we're gonna talk about game 6 against the Giants. A little bit of discussions, and then if there's any updates we want to slide in, we'll roll through that as well. It's your boy Cool McCain, and I'm joined by Diva as well as Key. It's about that time. But before we get into that, a couple of things, got to make sure it's right and tight. And the most important thing, of course, is always getting hype. So we need that good hype, ready to rock intro to get us just going. So let's do it.
The kick is away, and the kick is, it's good! And the Eagles win!
It's hard to come to South Philadelphia and leave here with the win. You just don't come to Philadelphia and leave here with the win.
Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you. Let the celebration begin!
All right, good people. So we are in the building. Y'all know how we start this thing every week. Eagles updates, all season, regular season, preseason, postseason, don't even matter. Eagles updates. So Key, I'll start with you. Any updates and news regarding the Philadelphia Eagles you want to throw out for the people?
I don't know. I don't got nothing. I know, camp is starting up, and it's really not saying nothing really to talk about, but they getting ready for training camp and post mandatory camp, all the good stuff getting ready to happen. So nothing crazy that I seen.
Diva, anything from you? Are you muted? No, you're not. We can't hear you. Let me try to see. What about now? Try to say something. Still can't hear you. You might have to try dropping and coming back real quick. So yeah, Diva will be right back with us. Like he said, not too much going on in the news. But I'll just say this. For news wise, we getting ready for camp. Got a lot of people saying that we might be in the running to trade for TJ Watt.
Not for what they asking for.
I'm just saying that's the rumor that's going around.
Mm-hmm.
Jahad Campbell signed his contract and all that good stuff. So not too much, like you said, going on with the Eagles right now. But it's that quiet before the storm, right? It's that quiet right before the storm. After this, we'll be getting into training camp, all those good things. We'll start to have a lot more, things run down the turnpike. Got a couple of injured Eagles we should be hearing some updates on here in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, from that front, not necessarily too many specific things going on. But that's all good because sorry, I thought I had to sneeze. That's all good because we got enough stuff to talk about. We good. Trust me. All right, so Key, we're going to go ahead and slide on into the Game 5 review. We're going to be doing 2 for the rest of the time, guys, trying to get through everything up until the Super Bowl. So, Week 5, the return versus the Cleveland Browns. This was after the bye week. We went into the bye week, a lot of questions through the first 4 games of the season. A lot of people was dogging the defense. A lot of people was dogging Jalen Hurts. Um, a lot of people was dogging some of the mistakes that Saqoun had made. As crazy as it sounds, but a lot of people were. But this was a chance to kind of reset. And I feel like we took that chance to reset seriously. We came out tough fought game against Cleveland. It was 2016, not a huge win. Breaking it down, by halves. We both were tied at 10 going into the third quarter. We got a field goal in the third quarter to go up 13 to 10. Then Cleveland got 6 points in the fourth. We got another touchdown to get the 2016 victory of the Cleveland Browns. Definitely not one of the best games we've had for the season. Definitely not that. But one of the things that happens throughout the season is you have these bad games, right? You have these times where you don't play your best, but you're able to get a win because your defense does what it needs to do, individuals step up, and things of that nature. I feel like we had a lot of that starting. And of course, this was that long run we had. We started 10 games that we won in a row. So, loved what ended up coming out of Game 5 and the momentum we started building in Game 5. But, like I said, nowhere near the best game. Well, Dave, you're just getting back in. So, did you have anything for news that you want to throw out there to us?
No, I ain't seen too much popping off. Can y'all hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh.
We could hear it, and then she left. But okay. So, Game 5, Key. Your thoughts on Game 5?
This is the game I thought we should have at least blew Cleveland out. But again, you need games like this to humble themselves. That this was the start of the winning streak. But yeah, it was even though we won, I feel like we should have been up more. But I'll take the win here. Tough, hard fought game. Glad we came out of it winners. And again, each week we just got better. So it's one of those games that you like, we should have blew them out, but we still got the dub in the end. That's all that matters.
Yeah, the interesting breakdown was the run game. That's what stood out to me. Saqoun had 18 carries for 47 yards. So we kind of went to that. We want to run the ball more. But definitely, I would say, if I remember correctly, the worst game for Saqoun running the ball that he had all season. He averaged 2.6 yards per carry. This is a guy who put up monster numbers this year. But, you have those games.
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland's defense was pretty good last year. Myles Garrett gets after you.
Yeah.
So they have some pieces that, kind of break up things and make you play a little different. Hurts 264, 2 TDs. One of those touchdown passes went to the, I guess you could call him the game savior this game, A.J. Brown, 6 for 116 and a tutty. Calcaterra, 4 for 67. And then Devontae had 3 for 64. He also had a tutty. So in pure Eagles form, Brown and Smith get the tutties.
The Smith and Brown law firm.
Yep. And, tackles, Dean had 7 tackles and 5 assisted. Zach Bond, 4 and 4. GJ, 4 and 2. Graham, 4 and 1. Everybody else had 3 solo or less. They got a tackle. Some just had assisted tackles, but it wasn't statistically a great game. But when you actually watch the game, it was a hard-fought game. It was a lot of, back and forth, a lot of Philly trying to just make things happen, get the cobwebs off from the week off. And, I completely agree with what Key said. You sometimes need games where you win, but you still know you should have been a lot better, just so you can, get your mind right. And I think this was a get your mind right game for Philly, showing them if you go out there and you don't play your best, and you don't go dogging on defense and you don't play your best, you can be beat by anybody. We could have lost to Cleveland. Had we lost that game to Cleveland, we would have been laughing stocks, and we would have deserved it. But thankfully we pulled that bad boy out. All right, so we got a couple of comments here. So we got Benny Boom. He says 20 days to the start of training camp. We got Diva back with us. StreamYard trying to give her a hard time tonight. Philly in the building. Philly says what's going on, Eagles fan.
What up?
What up, Philly? Little T says I'm a big fan of Eagles season. Better Eagles kick Cowboys butts. Eagles should always kick Cowboys butts. 100% agree. Benny Boom says, would love to have TJ, not the experience of giving up Nolan Smith. That's the thing.
Absolutely not.
That's the thing, Benny. Everybody wants to have this all-star team. But you're not just getting the best players and you're giving people back trash. That's not how it works. They're going to want equal or better value for who they're trading. So that's why I'm kind of like, I'm good. I don't even need to worry about trying to bring nobody else in. We Gucci. We fine over here. We got what we got. We want to add somebody, free agent or something like that, or a reasonable trade where we don't have to give up any major pieces. I'm cool with that, but I feel like if we're going to add quality players, you know what we're getting. And there's nothing to do about it. So, me personally, I'm kind of with Key. I'm good.
I don't want an older player when we got a younger one.
Right. And then the thing is, that's a guy that you'd have to pay right away.
Yep.
Or that's already been paid. Whereas for me, I would rather have someone who we brought up in the system, who's been learning, and someone who's going to be around, for a longer period of time. That's just me. Hopefully the organization doesn't outthink themselves and do something crazy with this one, because we've been making pretty good moves so far, but you never know. Every once in a while, Howie will make one that'll make you say, why the fudge would we do that, Howie?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just hope that this ain't the time that he does that. For sure. Any other thoughts on the Browns game?
No.
All right, we got Diva. Any thoughts on the Browns game?
No, you talking about that trash game? No.
Hey, it's a win.
It was barely.
I don't call wins trash. I don't ever call wins trash. That's me personally. Mm-hmm. A win is a win. I take all wins. We can win by half a point.
Yeah, it was tough though. I didn't know what was gonna happen, but yeah, we won though. Could have been better.
That's the game. Saqoun didn't really go crazy, but you still gotta respect the Browns defense. No matter how they're doing offensively, they always had a good defense. So,
right, and that's the thing. The defense, I think, if I remember correctly, they held Saqoun to the lowest yards per carry of anybody, if I remember correctly. I saw something about that. So that's, it happens, but we still found a way to win. Like I said, ugly game, but we were coming off the bye. That's kind of that changing point where we started trying to implement the run more. But when you got 18 carries, only 47 yards, you got to start slinging the ball, and we did that. But like I say, not the greatest win, but a win is a win. Win 1 of 10, it started the momentum. So very happy that we were able to make that start with that game. All right, y'all.
Kobe Dean led in tackles that game.
Nope, Kobe had a good game. All right. So next, we'll slide on to some off-season discussions here. There's a couple of things I kind of saw and wanted to kind of, chop it up with y'all about, see what y'all's thoughts were on those things. Benny Boom says that Browns game was a tune-up for that fantastic run. Back in the building. What up, Unc? We ain't seen you in a while. Back with my yak and still smoking that Chiefs pack.
No, that's right.
Yes, sir. Smoke that thing, sir, all season. I just want to say the Chiefs was running around talking about three-peat and all that good stuff.
That got shut down.
Just remember, it was all motivation.
The iconic speech from Chris Brown. Oh, I mean, not Chris Brown, Chris Jones. Tom Brady can do it. We could come back. Yeah, okay.
You can.
But you didn't.
Anything is possible, but you didn't.
Not at all. To the end, so the defense just like forget it.
Yeah, it's garbage time. You know,
Yeah,
you know it's bad when you gotta put your second team, your second string in a Super Bowl game. You know, Jalen was upset. He was like, he went to Nick. He was like, "You sure we done?" He wanted to score some more.
yeah. Nick, all of a sudden, Nick want to be humble.
He said, "You sure we done?" Yo, that was hilarious.
Of all the people to talk about being humble, to act humble, Nick want to do that at that point. But it's all good. We still got the dub, and whether we beat them by 50 or 5, as long as we win, we won. All right. So, question for you, good people. And if you're in the chat, feel free to answer this question as well. Will Saqoun Barkley have another dominant season? I define dominant by saying, does he have another season where he gets 1,500 plus yards? We're going to say 12 plus touchdowns and 1,500 plus yards. I don't think he has another 2,000 yard season. It's really hard to do that back to back. And you got A.J. Dillon in here as well. I think he's going to take some of those carries, which will help him stay fresher longer. But that's what I'm, when I say another dominant season, that's what I'm asking, just to clarify.
Of course. I mean, I don't see why he wouldn't unless God forbid he get injured. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I think he would as long as we stick to running the ball. I don't see why he would.
I mean, I'm not saying 2K again, but he'll at least have, you know, he'll have over 1,000 yards, maybe 15.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I think he has about 15 plus 100 yards. About, I'm gonna say 12 plus touchdowns. Of course, barring injury, but I think the offense is gonna look a little different this year. I think we are gonna try to add a little bit more in the air, just to throw teams off, because it kind of doesn't make sense to just always do the same thing. And like I said, we got other backs that we should be using this year, so we should be able to say, hey, let's take 5 carries a game away from Saqoun and give them to somebody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Touchdowns, some of the big runs, they'll still happen, but I think overall it won't be as much. And then also teams are going to be queuing in on him this year. Teams are going to be attempting to take him out of the equation because they understand that that's, in most people's opinion, how we won. So I think he'll still have what I consider like a dominant season, 1,500 plus yards, 12 plus touchdowns. I just don't know if it'll be 2,000. It's a possibility, but like I said, I think we'll switch things up a little bit. Try to use the passing game differently. If we can get a third wide receiver that's actually going to catch the ball and have some chemistry, that can take some of those carries away as well. So I think it'll be reasons why he doesn't get, to me, back to 2,000. But I think those are mainly because of how the team's going to play and how teams are going to be trying to play us based on what he did last year. So Unc says, I predict the first ever back-to-back 2,000-yard season from Saqoun. And he puts hashtag wishful thinking, hashtag drunk talk, and 3 rolling on the floor emojis, laughing rolling on the floor emojis. Yeah, I mean, like I say, it would just be interesting if he was able to make that happen, just because that would be crazy. But I just think it's hard because people are going to cue in on you. They see that, they're like, this mother sucker ran all them yards on us last year.
You never know. They defenses now may stack the box on us, and that's okay because we know how to pass too.
Right. And that's what I'm thinking. I think that's going to be a lot of what I think is going to be the issue that we're going to have with him, is just the fact that people are going to try to, like you said, stack the box and focus on the run game, tie those lanes, and try to make things more difficult so he doesn't have another super monster season on him.
But it's okay. You know what happens when you keep chipping and wearing down the defensive line, they're going to break eventually. So.
Oh, yeah. All right. So the last show, we broke down the offensive depth chart. So back to our lads again, y'all. The bust down the defensive depth chart. And this is in the base defense, which is the 3-4. And the reason why I say this, there'll be times where we use nickel and other defenses as well. But this is our base 3-4 defense, the depth chart for that. So a defensive end, we have Moro Ojomo. And then behind him, Ty Robinson.
Okay.
At nose tackle, we have Jordan Davis. And Thomas Booker IV is the backup nose tackle. At defensive tackle, we have Jalen Carter as the starter. Behind him, Byron Young. And the third string is Gabe Hall at the moment. So that's our defensive line in the 3-4. So, Key, your thoughts on the defensive line, the 3-4, and then we'll get Eagles Divas thoughts too.
No, I think solid front. All the 3-4, all about that front pressure. And then you have, of course, your linebackers and your secondary behind you. But no, I feel like that front can, get to the quarterback. So I'm with it.
About you, Diva?
Oh, she's stuck in a multiverse.
Yeah, I think she's in the multiverse. Well, maybe she'll get out of the multiverse here in a second. Sometimes it'll jump you in and out. No, kick her out again. Well, for me, I don't mind the front, but I would like a little bit more depth. Because I'm not sure if Ty Robinson and Thomas Booker and Byron Young and Gabe Hall are going to be able to be the backups. Because you think about it, you're looking at last year, Ojomo was a backup, right? So now he's a starter, but now you got Ty Robinson behind him. So are those guys that are behind, are they going to be able to come in and have the same type of impact that guys we had last year did? Thomas Booker was, of course, here last year. So was Byron Young, Gabe Hall, but these weren't names that we called. So the depth is concerning, but we'll see in camp because these guys may be ready to step up. But just looking at it, pre-camp, that would be my, my only concern. All right, so at the outside linebacker, left outside linebacker, Nolan Smith Jr. is the starter. Behind him, Josh Uche, unrestricted free agent we signed from the Kansas City Chiefs. I just want to throw it out there since he came from the Chiefs. He said, can't beat him, join him. Behind him, third string, Patrick Johnson. And then behind him, Ochan Mathis is the fourth stringer at the outside linebacker on the left side. I'll do the right side, and then we'll do the inside linebacker. So the right outside linebacker, the starter right now is Jalix Hunt. His backup is Azeez Ujulari. Came from the Giants. The third string is Antoine Powell Ryland Jr. And then the fourth stringer is KJ Henry. And then at the wide linebacker, Zach Bond is the starter. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is his backup. And then Dallas Gant is the third stringer. At the middle linebacker, Nakobe Dean is the starter, even though he's currently injured. His backup is Jahad Campbell. Smale Munden is the third stringer. And then Lance Dixon is the fourth stringer at the middle linebacker. Thoughts on the linebacker group, Key?
I mean, I like the depth there. Again, don't think Nakobe will be ready by the time the season starts. Because again, that patella tendon is hard to come back from. So
he won't be ready. He won't be ready.
Hopefully, Jahad Dotson will step in. I know they said he'll be ready by training camp. So hopefully, by the season comes, either him or Trotter will be starting. So, I like the depth that we have at the linebacker spot.
Yeah, I think Jahad Campbell, if he plays up to expectations, is going to get that job, at least to start the season. Because, like I said, we know that he's not going to be back and ready for the beginning of the season. We get further into the season, we may get Nakobe Dean back. My only question is by the time he gets back, does he have an opportunity to get his job back, or is it already Jahad's job by then? That would be my only, curious question, so to speak. Now, as far as the other groups, I really like Jeremiah Trotter behind Zach Bond, because it means you bring Bond out, you're bringing Trotter in, right? And obviously, if you wanted to play Trotter at middle linebacker, you technically could, but I like him learning under Bond, being the guy to kind of watch him on the side. Zach Bond had a monster year for us, monster contract, and this gives him a chance to just learn and develop more. I love Jalix Hunt as a starter on the right side above Ojulari, and Powell Ryland as well, and even Trotter, right? So you look at Hunt, and they're saying right now we feel like Hunt is the second best linebacker that we have on the team. Well, second best outside linebacker, excuse me, let me speak correctly, outside linebacker that we have on the team. And that's very interesting. I like that move. Shows a lot of growth and development in that young man in his time in the league, offseason working, getting everything together. All right. Now we'll go to the secondary. The left cornerback right now, Keely Ringo is number one. Behind him is Adoree Jackson. Behind him is Tariq Castro Fields. And fourth on the depth chart is BJ Mays. At right cornerback, of course, Quinyon Mitchell is the starter. Eli Ricks is his backup. And AJ Woods is the third corner on the right side. At strong safety, Sidney Brown is the starter. Andrew Makuba is the backup. Lewis Sine is the third one. And then Maxon Hook is the fourth stringer. We have four at strong safety. Free safety, Reed Blankenship is the starter. Tristan McCollum is the backup. And then Andre Sam is the third stringer. Excuse me, y'all. Fighting a little bit of a summer cold, but it's all good. At nickelback, Cooper DeJean is the starter. Perry Nickerson is his backup. The third stringer is Mac Williams. And right now the fourth stringer is Brandon Johnson. Your thoughts on the secondary key?
I think it's going to be Ringo to get the spot. Makuba, he didn't sign his contract yet. I'm sure that's coming up. I haven't heard anything saying bad wise. He just hasn't gotten around to signing things yet. So I mean, we're going to lock him up. Makuba, hopefully, when preseason, the training camps, the preseason starts, we see these guys on pads. So we'll see what Makuba's all about. So I'm definitely going to be watching him, and when it comes to the preseason games, see how he does. And same thing with Ringo too. I think this year they definitely need to work in preseason. I know, don't want to risk getting hurt, but you still need that chemistry, that timing. So I think they should do, more than a couple series on for the defense and offense, just to get things together. And then, you can go back to sitting your players like they usually do. First couple quarters. First game you play a couple quarters, and then the next game, you play the whole quarter, and then you get the whole half or whatever. But preseason definitely matters. Get your have your chemistry together. So when you go into that first week, it's not so crazy. But I think Ringo may get that second job. But no, I like the secondary positions. We already knew cornerback was going to be a priority because of CJ getting traded to Houston. So I think we got enough guys to compete that's been here enough. And I think Ringo, he's been here the longest out of the secondary. So it's time for him to step up and see what he can do.
Yeah, I'm interested in strong safety the most because that direct position at CJGJ ended up obviously not being in anymore because he's not here, and we're depending on Sidney Brown and a rookie in Andrew Makuba to kind of fight for that battle, and maybe Lewis Sign, gets in there depending on how those other two guys play. I think I'm just concerned because Sidney Brown's a guy who showed some glimpses 2 years ago. Last year, injuries, didn't get really a chance to do much. So we're bringing back a guy who's been around the team. Not saying he hasn't been around, doesn't understand what's going on, but hasn't had a chance to do a lot on the actual field. So just concerned with how he's going to be able to, perform in that starting role. And there's going to be a lot expected. And I'm sure there's going to be some shots taken at him early in the season because you're looking at their secondary. The two positions that you're probably going to challenge if you're one of the first teams to play the Eagles is the left cornerback. That's going to be Ringo or Jackson. Probably Ringo, but we'll see what Adoree Jackson does in training camp. We know Quinyon's that technically the second corner on the right side, but just because he already started there last year, so why move him? Just let him stay on the side he's already shown he can be good on. They don't necessarily play the same side the whole game, so there are times where they flip. Nickelback, Terry Nickerson, Mac Williams. We're gonna see if one of your guys are there in case they want to take Cooper DeJean, do some different things with him in certain situations. But overall, I think the secondary, it looks as good as we're going to expect it to look when you lose a Hall of Fame corner and then you trade a Pro Bowl level safety. I mean, that's the best, that's the best you're going to look in those situations because you can say guys are there to step up, and they may be. But until you actually see them do it, you got to kind of say, I haven't seen you do it yet. So my thing is just waiting to see if they do it. And we have to have this conversation with a couple positions every year. Thankfully, it's not more. Because last summer, we were having a conversation about almost the whole that blame secondary. So we're in a much better place than we were last year. That's for sure. All right. And then, in your opinion, Key, where does Dallas Godert rank among tight ends in the league right now?
Goddard, in my opinion, is 5. He's top 5.
Okay.
Of course, you still got Kittle. You still got Kittle, Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, Sam Laporta. Goddard's right there. I think he's right there. Okay, maybe put him 6 because you still got Kittle, still got Kelce, Andrews, Laporta. I forgot about T.J. Hockenson. So he's right there in the top 6.
I'm gonna put him in the top 7. The guys that you named, of course, and the reason I'm gonna put him at 7 is availability. Mm-hmm. He's had a penchant for missing some games, being injured the last few seasons, right? So because of that, I'm gonna just drop him maybe one more spot because there's a couple of guys that are kind of right there, and they may be a little bit more durable. But he comes out, has a good strong year. Definitely. I mean, we're pretty much at the same place, 6, 7. I mean, it's pretty much what it is. He's a good, reliable corner. I mean, tight end. He makes the plays when you need him to make the plays. The thing is, just wanted to be a little bit more healthy. Can you be a little bit more healthier for me, Dallas Godert? Just a little bit. Just a little bit more healthy. A couple of comments here. So Benny says, stacking the box isn't going to stop this offense. The Eagles have 2 monsters at running back.
Pulling ball with feet.
I'll say this. Certain teams will be able to stack the box and make us have to go to the air. There are some teams that we're going to play this year that it doesn't matter what they do. We're going to eat in the run game. But I think there are some defenses that we play this year that will be able to make us say, you know what? In order for us to get the win we want, we might have to go and throw that ball this week. So I think we got that coming. It's going to be both ways. I just don't see it. To me, it just goes back to, I think still a great season for Saqoun, just a little bit less than 2,000. A few hundred less this year. So Unc says definitely Ringo opposite Mitchell. Makuba is like Buda Baker, CJ GJ just smaller. Yeah, but right now he's behind Sidney Brown, so he'd have to overtake him in order to get the spot. I'm not saying that he can't do it, but that's just how things sit before training camp. Damien in the building. Damien says Sidney Brown sounds more of a singer, movie superstar named than a football player. Laugh out loud. Damien also has Goddard at 6, so 6-7 range. We're right there. I like what he, like I said, I like what he does. He's a big dude. He's not the fastest, but he's reliable. Right. He's not a guy that drops the ball a lot. Those things are important when we're talking about players too. We talk a lot about what they do in certain situations and all that good stuff, but being reliable is important.
Especially the tight end is usually the quarterback safety blanket when all else fails. So he doesn't, like you said, he doesn't drop many.
Mm-hmm.
So he's always going to be there to bail out Hurts.
And especially in a situation where you haven't had a true third wide receiver. So you don't have that slot guy that kind of makes a move. So you got to rely on that guy to make those moves. So very important. All right. So we're going to go ahead and keep things trucking. Last question for the discussion. This should be a pretty good one. Has your opinion of Nick Sirianni changed now that he has won a Super Bowl, King?
Not even going to hold you. On the point of time when I thought we was going to have to go. I wasn't on a Nick fire train, but I was saying let his seat get hot train. He was goofy and everything else, and putting his hand in the cookie jar when it came to calling plays. We like, Nick, you got an offensive coordinator for a reason. Let him offensive coordinate. What are we doing? Your job is to oversee the team in general. If something don't go wrong, you can put your 2 cents in because you are the head coach. But you all know your play calling sucks. Don't do it. So we know Nick is still going to have his hand in a cookie jar this year. Hopefully he don't put his hand in it at all. But it wouldn't be Nick if he didn't. So I do like that he does motivate the team. When he's, when you see in the locker room they're doing film and break it down, he does a great job when it comes to the team, and players want to rally around him and run through a wall for him. So he hasn't lost the locker room. As I thought, I thought it was going to be a goner for a minute, but he turned things around. He probably told him to sit your ass down and stay out the play calling. We got you, offensive coordinator, so let him do his job. But he's always after that. During the course of winning, it wasn't saying, "Oh yeah, we this, we that." Each game was, we can get better. We still got work to do. So that's what I liked. So it's not that he was, oh yeah, we won tonight, blah blah blah. It was, we got to get better. We still learning. We still can be on top. We still got more things to accomplish. So I did appreciate that. So I got a new thing for Nick. Now let him start messing up again. Hopefully he don't. And watch how the city turn.
Yeah. I think my answer is going to be no. My opinion of Nick Sirianni hasn't changed. And the reason my opinion of Nick Sirianni hasn't changed is because he's not the reason we won the Super Bowl. The reason we won is the coaches. The position coaches, the coordinators, those guys are the reason that we won. I said all along, if Nick does what we want him to do, which is stay out the way and be a head coach, let the offensive coordinator do the offense, the defense run the defense, and you be Nick Sirianni. You be the motivator, the trash talker. Just for pride, every once in a while you want to throw in a player or two, just to feel good, like you're making a difference. Okay, but we don't want too much Nick Sirianni. For me, that hasn't changed, but I'll back off on the firing him as long as he keeps his defensive coordinator and he allows the QB and the OC to work together and stay out of it too much. I'm fine with him being here now, but my opinion of him hasn't really changed. This is what I said he needed to do, which I feel like he actually did this past season with Kellen Moore near the end of the season. But now we're starting over with a new OC, so hopefully he continues to do the same thing. in my opinion, has not changed on Nick Sirianni. Benny says no, not really. I still need Nick to stay out of the way and let the coaches do their job. I agree. Damon says, I think Fangio saved Sirianni's job. In my opinion, if he wasn't there, I don't think Nick would be there still. Yeah, well, we want to have him. I think it was important to bring him in because you needed to steady the offense. I mean, the defense. That was the problem. 2 years ago, the offense wasn't horrible, but the defense was doo-doo.
Mm-hmm.
Doo-doo butter.
Doo-doo butter, yep.
Yeah. And when you fix that, you saw what happened. They have to have a great defense. You have to have the right coordinator in place. And you have to let a guy run his system. And you can't fire him in the middle of the year or demote him. Like that's really don't know. We're not gonna reopen that Pandora.
And Matt Patricia, that was man.
They might as well came and got me and Yuki. They're gonna get Matt Patricia.
You can find better people off the street than that.
That's what I'm saying. Straight up off the street. You could have went to indoor football and got you somebody that would have been better than that.
Jalen could have played.
Right. All right. So, since we're doing the 2, we're going to move over to our second game review. And that's going to be the Week 6 game. And it was, Game 6, not Week 6. Week 7, Game 6 game. And for those of you who may not know, hit the wrong thing there. This game was against the New York Giants. This was a trouncing. This was a beatdown.
Yeah, Saquon's game first back as a Eagle against the Giants.
Yeah. Hurts threw the ball 14 times the entirety of the game. 14 times. Daniel Jones threw the ball 21 times. And why would you say that matters? Here's what the running game did, y'all, in this game. This is how you know that they understand what needed to happen against the Giants. 17 carries for Saqoun for 176 yards. 13 carries for Kenneth Gainwell for 56 yards. 7 for Hurts for 22 yards. And then 8 for Shipley for 15. And plus he had a big one that got called back. Barkley had a running touchdown. Hurts had 2 running touchdowns and a touchdown in the air. And, of course, a lot of times when we talk about one touchdown, one play, we know who normally has the big yards to the big game, and that's A.J. Brown, 5 for 89 with a tutty. Barkley had 2 for 11 with a tutty. Gainwell had 1 for 11. Excuse me, Barkley had 2 for 11. It wasn't a tutty. His tutty was on the ground, sorry. Gainwell had 1 for 11. Smith had 1 for -2 yards in that game. So a very un-Smitty-like game, but we ran the ball so much.
You didn't need to throw.
Like 45 times. That's Smash Mouth football. That's Smash Mouth football. I like what we did. You know, Daniel Jones only had 99 yards. No touchdowns or interceptions. Tyrone Tracy was their leading rusher, 6 for 23 yards. Daniel Jones had 5 for 20. Singletary had 5.
That's it. We only held him to 23. I'm thinking you about to say like 50, 60. You 23.
He had 23. Jones had 20. Singletary had 18. Drew Lock had 1 for 13. And Eric Gray had 1 for 2. In the air, Neighbors had 4 for 41. Robinson had 6 for 23. Slayton and Bellinger both had 1 for 11. Tracy had 3 catches for 9 yards. Gray had 1 for 7. Singletary had 1 for 3. Defensively, talk about the Eagles' defense real quick, because when you hold the other team to 3 points, we can say whoever it is, but when you can hold another team to 3 points, you're doing your job. Nakobe Dean again, 6 tackles, 5 assisted. Zach Bond again, 4 tackles, 2 assisted. Cooper DeJean, 4 tackles. Darius Slay, 4 tackles. Jalen Carter, 3 tackles, 1 assisted. Reed Blankenship, 3 tackles, 1 assisted. Quinyon Mitchell, 2 tackles, 1 assisted. Nolan Smith and Isaiah Rodgers both had 2 tackles. And then a host of people had, 1 assisted tackle. But not a lot of big plays in this game. We did get 2 sacks from Dean, 2 sacks from Carter, got a sack from Nolan Smith. We got a sack from Bryce Huff, got a sack from Josh Sweat, got a sack from James Hunt.
Was it a sack factory?
Yeah, a lot of people was eating off of Drew Lock and Daniel Jones. But,
Oprah, you get a sack. You get a sack.
You get a sack. You get a sack. Everybody get a sack. Yeah. Quitter 215 says the defense 2 years ago was this century.
It was horrible.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say garbage. It was very garbage. I couldn't stand it. I was disappointed to be
with a trash coordinator.
Yeah, to see it. But I'm glad it was not there. I'm glad Vic got to us. We needed that. We definitely needed Big Vic.
Vic wanted to come to us before, but he went to Miami.
Well, he went to Miami because we didn't know what was going to happen with the head coach in Arizona because of the tampering.
Gannon.
Yeah. Ganyas. Your thoughts, Key, on that Giants beatdown we put on them? I mean, we
that was just an ass whooping.
Too much.
As you can see, the defense understood the assignment, sacked quarterback. They did offensively. We didn't do much as far as we ran the ball down either, pretty much. And of course, AJ got involved. Smitty didn't really get in that game. I don't know, it was weird, but of course, Smitty ain't gonna have a bunch of games. That you're human, so. But we got the dub.
That's the important part. I say it every week. Game 2 of the winning streak. I just love that momentum. We started building momentum.
Mm-hmm.
People were saying, "Oh, they're gonna lose to the Giants. They're gonna turn the ball over." A lot of people just doubted this team last year. And after the Cleveland game, a lot of people felt like, "Oh, you might go in there and lose to the Giants." It definitely didn't happen. We went there and handled business. We did what we were supposed to do, and kept it going. And you'll see as we go over the games the next couple of weeks, this was something that was consistent with the team and consistent with the season. It was finding a way to win. Sometimes it was the ground game. A lot of people would have you believe it was always the ground game. It wasn't always the ground game. More often than not, it was the ground game and the defense, some combination of those two. But there were times where Hurt stepped up. But what he understood was if Saqoun is getting off running the ball, why am I throwing the ball?
Right.
Let him eat. And that's something I hope that continues. Let the running backs eat. If they're getting it done, whoever's the hot hand, let them eat.
Mm-hmm. Don't leave no leftovers.
Exactly. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've completed what we need to talk about with y'all this week. Key, any final thoughts?
No, I'm just again, football season. Basketball's over. The draft is over for basketball. Now we get in the nitty gritty of things. Baseball, I could care less about really until playoff time. That's when I'll watch. But football's almost here, y'all. We've been patiently waiting. After the Super Bowl, I get depressed. So, football's finally here. So, I'm ready.
For me, I'm gonna just say, make sure you're back next week. Make sure you share this a couple of your friends. Make sure you like it. If you haven't subbed, please do that. If you haven't put on notifications, please do that for your peoples. But yeah, man, it's gonna be a big season for the Eagles, defending Super Bowl champs. Hoping we can go back to back. There's a couple of places where I'm a little concerned, but I think overall we have a good chance. So Stu asks, is Sirianni Hurts the best coach QB combo in Eagles history? I'm going to have to say no because Sirianni is nowhere near the best coach. I think.
That Andy Reid and Donovan? Maybe. Yeah.
I have to think about duos because I have coaches in mind. I have players. I just have to see who played together. I mean, you got to put the coaches that Cunningham had in there. You know, he had a good time. You got to go back to Jaws, his coach. You know, Dick Vermeil was our coach for a while. So there was some good duos. If we're talking about Super Bowl appearances, then they're up there. If we're talking about their actual success together, I think Hurts has done a really good job. But again, because I don't have a terrible opinion of Sirianni any longer, but I don't have a great opinion. So it's kind of like in the middle. Like Sirianni is the one that makes me say it's probably not the best duo. But if we're talking about Super Bowl appearances, they do have 2 appearances. 1 win and 1 loss, but they do have 2 appearances. So if we're talking, you know, Super Bowl wins, the only other person we could put up there. So Stu, because I'm not going to be let me first raise a question. How can they not be only combo to reach 2 Super Bowl games and win 2 NFC championship games? Stu, because I'm not going to be a prisoner of what other people did. Nick Sirianni was not the reason that we got to either one of those Super Bowls. So you're not going to give me that ESPN question and then hit me with that ESPN statisticals for an answer. I'm not doing that. When I look at Nick Sirianni, when I look at when he's calling plays, when he's having a large input on the team, how they look, no, he's not going to ever be in the best coach conversation with me. And no matter what quarterback he plays with, they can't be the best duo because of Nick. Like I said, I'm not saying he's garbage, but I'm saying he's not the reason that they win. The year that we had the awful defense and we lost in the first round, choke out to Tampa Bay, that was the year that Nick had the guys he wanted in place. That was the year that Nick had control because we had Super Bowl the year before. And how did we look? So no, I'm not going to give him that he's the best. He's part of the best coach and player duo. Absolutely not. Now, if he won both of those Super Bowls, then maybe I would have to defer a little bit more and say we at least got to put him in the top. But no, I'm not giving him that. Not your boy. You can give him that. I won't. So Quitter says Doug and Foles were the best QB coach duo.
But then you gotta remember Nick came in later on towards the end of the season. So when did Carson get hurt? What, ACL? 12, 13? Somewhere around there?
Yeah, it was somewhere around there, like 11.
So Nick just did the rest, Nick did the rest of the way. So I just feel like, I mean, I get why you would say, Foles and Doug, they did have, they did go to the Super Bowl and they won it, the first one. And, Doug made the system easy because we all know Foles ain't that mobile or whatever. He made the offense fit for Foles and it worked. So I mean, I get why you would put Doug and Nick there, but I don't really see them as the duo only because he wasn't there the whole season. It was Carson.
Right. So then here's a different angle that Uncle wants to come with. Got something for this one too. So your job as a coach is to motivate your team. Does he not do that? No, he doesn't. Not all the time. He's been yelled at by players. Other guys are going to players, pulling players away from here. No, he doesn't motivate his players all the time. We can go back and look at the film. You can go back and see there's a like a panel of guys. You talk about defense, you might have the defensive line coach or somebody go grab a guy and talk to him. Does he motivate players to an extent? Absolutely. Is he the main motivator? I don't believe so. Again, my opinion, you asked the question, I'm going to give you my opinion. There's nothing that you're going to say. There is nothing that you can type in the screen that's going to make me believe that any combination that has Nick Sirianni is the best. I don't care if they win another Super Bowl this year. Nick Sirianni wins because of the people around him, not because of what he does specifically. He's the rah-rah guy, and that's it. The GM had to step in, go hire a DC and an OC to get us to the Super Bowl last year. Because when Nick got his chance to get the guys that he wanted, you saw what happened. So I'm not going to put him as the best, no. Absolutely not. It says the only franchise coach QB combo to win anything. I'm gonna go back up here a few comments ago. There was another QB and coach combo that won a championship by the name of Doug and Nick. So to say he's the only one, that's inaccurate. 100% inaccurate. Says that comes with the territory. Well, here's the thing, man. Here's how I look at it. And again, it's a me thing. Key, you can agree, disagree, it's cool. When I look at it, I say, what guy are the guys that you look at and say, that team is a mirror of that coach, right? On any level. We're talking about high school, college, pro, semi-pro. This team doesn't have a Nick Sirianni personality. Nick Sirianni is not an aggressive, attacking dude. Nick is a let's do cutesy plays and stuff like that, right? This team got an edge from bringing in Vic Fangio. The team wanted Vic Fangio. That was never a decision at all. Now he tries to say the DC OC was the ones Nick wanted the year before. It's not true. Nick wanted to elevate his own guys, so that's not true, Unc. Defensively, the team wanted Fangio, and they would have brought in Fangio, but because he wasn't available, Nick got to pick the two guys he wants. So that's incorrect, Unc. Then he says Nick Foles was not the franchise QB. Carson Wentz was. Nice try. Carson Wentz was not a franchise QB, sir. He was not a franchise QB. He had one good year. You muted, Key. You muted, Key.
My bad. I said Foles wasn't the franchise. Nick came in week 12, week 13, however it was, many games left. Nick finished it. That's it.
But at the end of the day, if he comes in and he's garbage, we don't win the Super Bowl. So I'm not saying that he's the best either, because so it's for me, it's split two ways. I feel like coaching wise, Doug Peterson had the pulse of the team. If we're talking about these two groups, quarterback wise, Hurts has the heart of the team, right? So if we had Peterson and Hurts, that would be the perfect combo, but we don't have that. So again, I'd have to go back and really check the past to come up with what I think would be the best duo. Quitter says Foles did the unthinkable. So I'm full of poo because I don't agree with you. Okay, that's cool. If you can't have a conversation and I got to agree with you or I'm full of poo, cool. You're just incorrect. Period. You're incorrect, huh? You don't got to like it, but you're incorrect. I don't agree with you. I will not agree with you. There's nothing you're going to say to make me believe that Nick Sirianni is part of the best duo of anything in the history of the Philadelphia Eagles unless they go on to win 4+ Super Bowls before he leaves. Then I have to acquiesce just because of the amount of hardware. But one Super Bowl and 2 appearances, I'm not going to put him there because I don't have a lot of faith in him. Damien, no one was saying that Nick is a
we never said Nick was the franchise.
Yeah, let's go back to Unk's actual question because he keeps trying to change the question. I love when people do that. Let's go back to the actual question. You keep trying to change the question. So the question that you asked, let's go all the way back up here. You said, was Sirianni Hurts the best coach QB combo in Eagles history?
And so we said no.
So you didn't say anything about franchise QB, franchise head coach. You said coach QB. No, because of Nick Sirianni. So if someone, based on your question, if Quitter 215 wants to come here and say Doug and Foles, he can, because guess what? Your question wasn't specific enough. That's not my fault. That is your fault, Unc. You came up in here and asked, was they the best coach QB combo? You ain't put no time frame on it. You just said best coach QB combo. So if somebody wants to say it's Doug and Foles, they can. You don't have to agree with it. But that's the thing. You ask a question, you have to understand. You may not get the answer that you want. You ain't got to agree with my thoughts. That's fine. I'm going to still sleep good tonight. I'm still going to celebrate the Super Bowl. I'm still going to rock my Eagles championship gear, whether you agree with my thoughts or my takes or not. Believe that, pimping. Anything else you want to add, Key?
No. I know Damien said something about a GM question. How I know we of course we're going to lose people in the free agents. We can't keep all of them, and we just came off a Super Bowl. So yeah, other teams are going to offer them more money. Does that mean they'll make the playoffs? We're going to make the playoffs, and I don't think it's time to question Howie as a GM. Howie's the best GM in all of football. You don't pick up the phone when he's calling. So has he made some choice moves? Of course, but we still ride with Howie. So he's still bringing guys in, and who's to say that he's not done later on in the season? So he's killed the last couple drafts. You know how he's all about trenches. So he's going to build the trenches. He's going to build up your offensive line, and he's going to build up your defensive line. Trenches. So I don't think let's just say if the Eagles don't make the playoff, it's not time to question him as a GM.
I'd have to say no as well. I would want to, but I'd have to say no. He laid out most of the reasons why. I always had a track record of good and bad, right? So it would be over sensationalizing to say he's one or the other, right? It'd be over sensationalizing to say, oh, he's somebody we need to get rid of because of one bad year.
Yeah,
you have to kind of look at it and say it's a process for that. Now, here's what I'll say to if you want to say that that's your best coach QB combo, that's fine if that's what you want to do, right? I don't have a problem with you feeling that way, but I don't, and I won't until I say it. Like I said, you go out there and you handle 5 or 6 championship rings to Philly before you leave. Then that's a different conversation. But as of now, I wouldn't do that. But if that's what you want to do, man, that's cool. Like Bobby said, it's your prerogative. Like Bobby Brown said. Quarter 215 says Howie always makes questionable moves, but normally they turn out good more than bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a reason to keep him there and kind of keep things moving, because you've got Howie sitting here kind of doing his thing, and it's been successful. You go out, you get rid of Howie, you put him on the hot seat, you start looking at other guys, and then they come in and they're not able to make the moves that Howie can make. Then you're like, oh, because you think about all the guys on this roster he's made moves to get. A.J. Brown, he made moves to get. Devontae Smith, he made moves to get. Not just drafted, but made moves to get those guys. Right? He traded back up over the Cowboys. I mean, the Cowboys picked over the Giants to get Devontae Smith. Right? He brought CJ in twice. He drafted Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, some of these guys from this year, Jalen Carter. The list goes on and on of guys that he's drafted and brought in that are now contributing to the team.
Howie is good with money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's great money guy.
He's good with money.
Yeah. Nope. So yeah, appreciate everybody in the comments. And like I said, we ain't got to agree. We all here for discussion. We ain't got to agree. But I would love for the Eagles to get back and win enough Super Bowls for me to have to say, okay, because of the Super Bowl, the amount of Super Bowls we won, I'm going to have to give it to Nick.
Right.
Just not there yet, in my opinion. All right, guys. So unless we have any more questions in the chat, we can go ahead and get up out of here. Make sure you tune in next week. And always remember, it's never where you start. It's always where you finish. Hashtag Fly Eagles Fly. Hashtag Be Elite. See y'all next week.